Good afternoon, viewers. Sanibonani, molweni, 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 Good afternoon, viewers. Sanibonani, molweni. You're welcome to the webinar on the protection of children on the online use, a webinar that is hosted by the National Department of Social Development in partnership with UNICEF. On that note, I would like to introduce myself. I am Neliswa Tsekiso, the Director, Child Protection in the National Department of Social Development. I will be co-directing this webinar session with Ms. Sinamuruwane, who is the partner in this webinar session. It is important that I also acknowledge the panelists that we have today. Greetings to you all. I also want to acknowledge the DDG, that is Deputy Director General Welfare Services, Ms. Connie Ngumalo, who will be doing the opening remarks for this webinar. I must also acknowledge the President of Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament. Freddie, you are welcome. We're really looking forward to hear the children's voices as you will be making that call so that we ensure the safety and protection of children whilst they are utilizing the online platforms. I also want to acknowledge the presence of panelists, Mike Brett from UNICEF, Dr. Anton Basson from UNISA, Ms. Darlene Clark from South African Law Reform Commission, Mr. Murendeni Muridili from Films and Publications Board, our child ambassadors from Limpopo, and I need to apologize and tender the apology from SABC, as we are supposed to have Major General Linda. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it because he's also one of the experts that is playing a critical role in terms of ensuring safety of our children whilst online platforms. Our DSD official, Ms. Kian Dwarika, and I also need to acknowledge Ms. Yolanda Mlonzi from Google SA. Partners and key stakeholders in the child protection sector, we acknowledge your presence and looking forward to your contributions, because this webinar is very critical for the country, because we are actually at the time when we are confronted with the COVID-19, and we are saying that let's all work together to protect children during COVID-19 and beyond. And on that point, I would like to call upon DDG Connie to do the opening address. Over to you, DDG.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Program Director, and the viewers at home. As a department, we continue to show commitment to promote and protect the rights of every child. This is to uphold the government's constitutional obligations that all children in South Africa enjoy the care and protection that they are assured of in the Constitution, also as well within the provisions of Children's Act. Violence against children undermines their right to life, dignity, care, and protection. We have witnessed violation of children in the cyberspace, and their vulnerability is exacerbated by exposure to various media platforms that has positive and negative spin-offs in their lives. So as we work together with key stakeholders, we need to ensure that we reduce children's vulnerability and we make sure that we are informed by evidence. As we celebrate 2020 Child Protection Week, we conduct this in different forms because we are confronted with COVID-19, which has significantly challenged us to change the way we do things. This has also changed the format and approach which we utilize as social development and our stakeholders to engage with children, parents, and communities. We have also become dependent on the digital platforms to communicate our messages in the spirit of promoting social distancing, complying with COVID-19 protocols in reducing the spread of the virus. Children are not immune to infections and they are more vulnerable. Hence, we have come up with a theme for the 2020 Child Protection Week that says, let us all protect children during COVID-19 and beyond. You will agree with me that e-learning program for children during lockdown did come with some challenges. It creates higher risks and vulnerabilities for children online. The return to school will basically affect the child's mental health and their well-being. Hence, as government and technical experts that will be talking today, and also children and their parents, we have to put our heads together to make sure that we deal with the vulnerabilities and make proposals on how we can continue to protect our children from the online abuse. There's also research that shows us that over the years, South African youth have taken full advantage of the development in the technological space. And this research was one that was done by UNISA through their Youth Research Unit of the Bureau of Market Research. This research shows that approximately 88.4% of young people personally own a cell phone, while 8.9% access a cell phone via family and friends. This research findings also reveal that the benefits of using IT are accompanied by risk, as I indicated. Despite displaying cell phone addiction behaviors, the young people are also exposed to various forms of exploitation, particularly online sexual grooming, cyber grooming, also exposure to sexual explicit material. The most recent study that was done by the very same unit in 2016 found that more than 2/3, which is 68.1% of learners, were exposed to online pornographic material during the preceding 12 months. In further, to protect our children, we are working with UNICEF to ensure that we come up with evidence-based programs. We have commissioned Kids Online National Study that will ensure that we come up with evidence that will assist us collectively to come up with risk and support measures that will support children. Today's webinar, online violation, is to engage with experts from government departments and head from the program director, the academia, the social media platforms, parents and children themselves. And the things that are going to be touched on will be, among others, the following: the model of national response and global perspective, and we also have message to children online practicalities that will be delivered by the President Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament. Also the research, some of the research studies that have been done on online exploitation and safety of children, experience of online violations, legislation and policy to deal with this matter, also classification and online monitoring, investigation and cross-border issues, protection and services to children, and most importantly, role of technology sector in protecting children online. So we begin our interaction with experts. I really want to wish all of us fruitful deliberations so that we end up ensuring that we protect and care for our children. Let us all protect children during this COVID-19 and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DDG Connie, for the opening remarks and also emphasizing the importance of this day, especially when we have to ensure care and protection of children, responsibility lying with children themselves, as well as parents and every stakeholder. On this point, I would like to call upon UNICEF, Ms. Maike Heijbracht, to help us to understand the model of international as well as national responsibilities, as well as global perspective when we talk about the issues of online safety. Over to you, Maike.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kiesel, Madame DDG, all the viewers, good afternoon. So it is very important that digital technology is recognized to the best interest of children and to empower them, as it does change childhood very rapidly. So in this afternoon, we are looking at the rights of children and the online risks that children are facing, and to find a balance to benefit from the empowerment of the digital age with the right to be protected from abuse and exploitation online. So I hope you can all see this presentation, as we are facing 4 key risks and harms that children might experience. One is for them to become exposed to violent images. This can be like pornography or other harmful material which is unwanted, or that they put themselves at risk by sending sexual imagery of themselves and posting many pictures on the different groups every day, or that there is cyberbullying, that children become victims of peer behavior. But worst is that children could become victims of sexual abuse and exploitation. So in the next slide, you can see the 3 areas. 1, children as recipient of harmful materials, embedded marketing with all these databases being sold, or online gambling, or children that are in contact with hate speech or sexual harassment, sexual grooming online, or conduct that they experience violent peer activity or being groomed online, with as a result sexual exploitation, but at times also trafficking. So you can see that with COVID and lockdown, millions of children around the world have moved to a virtual platform to continue their learning, which should be positive. But we have seen that with that there is a 100% increase in the number of photos of children being sexually abused that is reported to technological companies. And we see an increase in child sexual abuse materials related reports to InHope, the global network of hotlines. So at the moment, this is the circle of how offenders behave themselves. They obtain imagery, then they share this online to gauge interest with sexual interest in children. And then they seek new child sexual abuse material and migrate to further online networks and web forums, and acquire new tips and new methodologies and techniques to continue to groom children online and evade detection, and continue to expand networks and networks and networks. So with this virtual era, the digital era, we have seen that there are predators really abusing this cybercrime in a much more intensified manner. This is very harmful. As Olivia's story tells us, Olivia was abused for 5 years, and during the physical abuse and sexual abuse that was taking place, her predator took images of this sexual abuse, which after the perpetrator was caught, continued to be perpetrated online 5 times each day and every working day. And this demonstrates that online violence and abuse has an increasingly lifelong toll on victims and their families. So what we are learning, and the key observations are that offenders are very quick to capitalize on technology, that online crimes against children are thriving, and this requires a global culture of online safety and protection. As the problems that occur online are not unique and best conceptualized holistically and demands faster action, a focused investment and greater cooperation amongst all parties as to ensure we continue to harness the opportunities of the digital age to benefit every child. So what has happened is that the We Protect Global Alliance has established a framework for countries to enable them to establish and develop a coordinated national response to online child sexual exploitation. This is a framework to enable countries and industry and civil society and other partners to develop a coordinated global response to online child sexual exploitation in the following 6 areas. From policy and governance, and I'm so proud that this webinar is taking place as DSD shows the highest level national commitment to prevention and response, and there is need for effective and successful investigations, convictions and offender management as the criminal justice response, and ensure appropriate safeguards for children and young people, so that they don't become victims of online violence, and that as a society as a whole, we continue to ensure that children are prevented from child sexual exploitation and abuse, where the industry has a major role to develop solutions to tackle and prevent online child sexual exploitation by protecting the devices, by protecting the internet programs that are coming in, and that the entire media and public has created awareness amongst professional policymakers, children and parents themselves, for children to stay safe online. So as UNICEF, as DDG said, we have supported DSD with UNICEF to undertake a national assessment on online protection to gauge the extent of how children in South Africa are affected by child online sexual abuse and exploitation. And we are developing a toolkit to raise awareness and to train children, parents and teachers and social service professionals and law enforcement officials on online protection, so that we can all work together in an integrated way through a national response coordinated plan. South Africa became a member of the Global Partnership to End Violence as a Pathfinder country in 2017, and we continue to look forward to working together with all parties to make sure every child benefits to the maximum potential from this digital age and era. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heijbrecht, for such a message, helping us to bring the balance in relation to positives and negatives of the online use. Also, whilst highlighting, the importance of understanding the modus operandi of the predators, which is very educational for our children today to understand, including parents. Thank you for that message. At this point, I would like to call upon our child ambassador, that is the president of the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament, Freddie Ramunyai, all the way from Limpopo. Over to you, Freddie. Talk to your constituency.
Thank you, Program Director. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and listeners at home. Tata Madiba once said, and I quote, "Our children are our greatest treasure. They are our future. And those who abuse them, they tear at the fabric of our society and weaken our nation." I close quote. With that being said, thank you for having me. I'm Ramunyai Freddie from Save the Children South Africa, and I'm the current president of the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about online violation and protection. To begin with, we are moving towards the end of Child Protection Week. So it is important to remember that our children are our future. And they are actually the future of our nations. And that means having them safe and protected secures a great future for our nations. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up as a young individual who found it hard and difficult to socialize with people, physically so. And with that, the only escape that I had was social media. And well, in our generation, we have a free social media platform, which is known as Facebook to most. That's where we find most of our children exploiting one another, violating each other's rights. And again, that's where cyberbullying takes place. My dear one, I used to use social media as a platform to socialize with people. As we all know that social media can help you be yourself. It can help you evoke confidence if you need it. And because in most cases, you come across written comments that are motivating or written posts that are encouraging. I myself personally, I have a Facebook page that I use to motivate youngsters out there. And it's a great initiative because I know within a short space of a day that I've made a difference in somebody's day, in somebody's life. But then, let me touch on this. As I mentioned, social media was very much good and pleasant. But something happened that made me have a different eye to social media. There was this other platform that was created just to mock and again to promote cyberbullying over Facebook. And unfortunately, South Africa, I became a victim of that platform. The only thing that happened, or rather say how I was victimized, it happened that there was a post running around mentioning that I'm part of the LGBTQI team. And as an individual, you can understand that that can affect your self-esteem. And if you don't get enough support, you might end up having suicidal thoughts. I did have them at some point, because there was even a time whereby I was mentioned on a certain post whereby it was showing people of that LGBTQI family having a sexual intercourse. And being mentioned on such a picture, it says a lot about you. So my silence, me being a person who is an introvert, I was interpreted as a gay, as I didn't want to associate myself or rather converse with many people at most times. But with the grace of God and the support that I had from my school, I had a school teacher who I was able to talk to. And indeed, he saved my life. And if he's watching this, may God bless him. Ladies and gentlemen, or rather say to my peers out there, social media, it can break you. And again, it can build you. And there are certain risks that you may come across on social media. I'll just highlight a few. The first might be phishing scams, identity theft scams, online harassment, cyber stalking, invasion of privacy, human trafficking, gang rape, or you can end up violating someone's right to life or having your own right to life violated. Or at some point, it can result to a loss of esteem. The only word, or rather, say a few words of advice that I might have for the children of for our children, I would just say, as much as you have the right to association, and as much as you have the right to participation, please always attach the best responsibilities to your rights. As much as you're able to associate, as much as you're granted a right to associate with people out there, have it within your own parameters to associate with people who are going to bring good things in your life. My dear ones, a circle of friends is created by yourself. You are the one who invites people in your life. You are the one who shares your contact number with other people out there. You are the very same individual who talks with people who are strangers from different places, of which you don't know them, and again, you agree to meet them. As a result, you end up becoming a victim of gang rape. So, Mahatma Gandhi once said, and I quote, "Nobody can harm you without your permission," I close quote. With that being said, Sharon of South Africa, the ball is in your court. As much as we can host the social media platforms responsible for allowing such posts to roam around, we are also responsible. You cannot be mentioned in a certain thing of which the community is not within it. So one thing you must know, your friends are the ones that define you. So surround yourself with good positivities. And in conclusion, I would like to say, our world has only one, or rather say, the people who are upholding the bright future of our nations as our children. Let's treasure them, prioritize them, and make sure that we promote the right that is stated in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act 1998, Chapter 2, Bill of Rights, Section 28, subsection 2, which says the children's, the interest of a child are of the best paramount importance. South Africa, I thank you.
Thank you, President of the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament, Mr. Freddie, for such a powerful message to children. And thank you for highlighting, the importance of balancing the rights with responsibilities, as well as highlighting the power of association, as we know that peer pressure can really have a positive as well as the negative role in the lives of children. At this note, let me call upon Dr. Antoinette Basson from the University of South Africa. Over to you, Dr. Basson.
Thank you, Program Director, and good afternoon to the viewers. I would like to share with you today a little bit more about the research that we've done at the Youth Research Unit of the Bureau of Market Research at UNISA. And I think in these very uncertain and changing times that we are living in, research has become so important. And I think it's a time that we really need evidence for our decisions and our actions so that we can really benefit the children of South Africa. One of our key research focus areas is the online behavior and experiences of children. And we have conducted a number of studies on this since 2010. And unfortunately, lately, our focus has really shifted to online sexual exploitation of children. And it's very sad because that's not something that we want our children to experience. We want them to experience the positive benefits of technology. Basically, I would like to share with you some of our key findings. And firstly, what we've noticed in our research is extremely high prevalence rates of cell phone access amongst children. And with that comes internet access. A lot of children are accessing the internet through their cell phones, and they use the internet then to access information. And very often we found in our research, like this is not always positive information, it's always also negative and influence their behavior. We also found in our research that they spend a considerable amount of time on social networking platforms, and that's also positive because it encouraged them to interact and share images with their friends, but also it can become negative, as we found in our research, because they engage in activities that make them more vulnerable to people out there with the wrong intentions that do not always want to protect children. So we also saw that in our research that with the positive of technology, our children are also experiencing negatives. We also found that a lot of children experience cyberbullying and they're exposed to pornographic material online. And we really saw that that is increasing, especially in our last study that we've done in 2016. We found that almost 70% of the children actually have been exposed to sexually explicit material online, and that negatively input on their behavior. Unfortunately, what we found in our research is that the online protective measures is not keeping up with the development of the technology or with the usage amongst our young people. And I think that's really something I want to emphasize this afternoon, that we need to really focus on this, that technology is changing so fast. If we think now with the COVID-19, we're spending a lot of time online, and our protective measures at this stage is not keeping up with that. Our children are embracing technology, and we really need to focus on that and make it a priority in South Africa to protect our children online. Also, something that came out of our research is, unfortunately, our children are very reluctant to report their experiences online. We need children to come forward to report, to get support. We found in our research that these experiences are extremely intense. Children have a lot of negative experience. They're anxious. They consider suicide. It really can become a very negative situation that affects their well-being. And we need our children to come forward and report and share this information with us, to also enable us to protect them and make the environment more safe for them. We really need also parents to take this serious. This is real. It's really happening to our children online. We often found in our research that a lot of people think it's something very distant. It's not really something that's happening to children, and it's very, very real. We need to create that awareness amongst our society to really take note of this as well. We also found in our research that there's a range of existing safety measures out there, and some parents are really trying. Parents are talking to their children. They are really encouraging their children to be safe online, and we are very, very happy to see that in our research, and we need more parents to join us in this fight against the risky online behavior and to make the environment more safe. That is extremely important, especially in this time with the COVID-19, where a lot of children are not attending school. They're at home. We need teamwork between parents and children. We need parent support and engagement with their children, especially online. I just want to conclude with one or two very important recommendations that I think we need to consider for the way forward. And that's that we need a collaborative response or teamwork if we want to really move forward with online safety and to protect children. I think this webinar is an exceptional example of that, how government and academia and child protection organizations can take hands. And we need to work together. This is not something one organization or institution can be held responsible for. We also need more research, like I said in the beginning, especially in these changing times. Research is of the utmost importance to understand what's happening and to take the correct decisions. And very, very important, I think we really need to intensify our awareness programs and highlight that online exploitation and safety, it's very important topics. We need to make use of every opportunity to talk about this and make sure that our children are also aware of this and comfortable to deal with this situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Passon. Especially sharing us evidence from research, which would really inform us in terms of programming. I think at this point it's important to hear the voice of a parent sharing own experiences from parental perspective. And on that note, I would like to call upon Mr. Van de Westhuizen to share his experiences as a parent. Over to you, Mr. Van de Westhuizen.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to share my experience as a parent on the very important topic of online and social networking platforms. My approach as a parent, having I've got two boys, Chris is 15 and Henry is 17, they're both teenagers. Henry is also on this call later. But as a parent of two teenage boys, my approach is very much an approach of back to basics. And that does not include policing. I think our children have enough stress in their lives to have a parent or two looking over their shoulder every day. And my approach is one of trust, but trust with guidance, and I'll explain that to you. Shakespeare said it's a wise father that knows his own child, and by no means I want to claim that I'm a wise father, but as a father, I make an effort to know my child. And I spend time with my boys, and it's important for me to create a safe space for them and a feeling that they are loved. And talking about back to basics, we spend as a family and a lot of time around a dinner table, maybe sometimes up to an hour, talking about stuff and prompting the boys. They would typically tell you, no, school went well, but then we would typically, as parents, tell us more, and we'll unpack what they're experiencing, and we'll have discussions around it. And that's where the guidance come in as well. But the bottom line is that we create a safe space for them. We create an environment where they feel and they know they can come and chat to us. And I always tell my boys, if you're in trouble, come and talk to me first. And by doing that, and by knowing my child and spending time with my child and my boys, I build a relationship of respectful friendship, if I can call it that. Yes, I'm their father, but I'm also their guardian, and I'm also somebody that they can trust and can share things with without any doubt. And they've got the freedom to do that. And that creates trust. And once I've got that trust relationship, I can guide my children. In addition to having the trust, I can guide them, and it's my responsibility as a parent to know about the dangers of things like social networking. A month ago, I attended a Zoom session around the dangers of social networking, of a session that was organized by The Guardian and the great work that they do. And after the session, I shared it with Chris and Henry, and I basically spoke to them specifically around cyberbullying and the risk of pornography and the legal aspects of that. And if they even knew that if they share a picture that they received with somebody else, they could potentially go to jail. And we had a good conversation, and thankfully, and I would want to say thank you to schools and churches and teachers that also play an important role in this around this aspect, because they immediately told me, Dad, some of this we knew because we get exposed to it and we get taught to it about it at school. And the bottom line is we are a network of people that needs to guide our children and assist our children. I think we all agree that there's more positives or advantages of social networking and online platforms than disadvantages. But the bottom line is, how do we manage it? And my back to basics approach as a parent is I have a relationship with my boys where they know they can trust me, they can come to me, and they must never ever fear sharing things with me or alerting me to the fact that, listen, I'm being bullied, or I've been exposed to stuff, and there's a boy or a child that shares stuff on the internet and keeps on doing it, which is wrong. And then a conversation starts, and then you can do something about it. So yeah, in summary, my approach is one of trust. I trust my boys. I make sure as a parent that I know about all the advantages, disadvantages around this topic. And then I guide my children. And let's not be naive. Teenagers are teenagers. And there's a lot of stuff that we as parents don't know. But up to this point, this approach worked for me. And I can just encourage us dealing and looking after the children of our great country. That's the future of this beautiful country we've got. That we as government encourage us as parents, government, schools, churches, NGOs to keep on working at it and making sure we create forums like this where we can protect and talk about these things and make sure our children are protected and we look after their well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. van der Westhuizen, especially around the emphasis on the responsibilities and rights of parents, appreciating the role that you are playing as the parent to ensure care and protection of children, because in terms of the Children's Act, we really emphasize the importance of parents exercising care. And from your experience, you have really showed us that you are exercising that care, and we appreciate, because you even balanced your presentation of your own experience to what Freddie indicated, that children, they need to ensure that whilst they're exercising their rights, they must do that with responsibility. On that note, I wish to call upon Ms. Darlene Clark from South African Law Reform Commission to help us understand what legislation and policy say around protection of children on online safety. Over to you, Ms. Clark.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be showing a presentation. And while I just load it, just to say that the Law Reform Commission is currently investigating the need for law reform in respect of pornography and children, and specifically the exposure of children to pornography. But just to place it into context, you'll see from the image in front of you that the internet is an amazing place, and just in 60 seconds, people are watching 3.7 million, there are 3.7 million searches on Google, 266,000 hours on Netflix, and I'm sure it's so much more now that this is 2018. So this is just to show you what's happening just in one single minute. If you look at the uptake of the internet in South Africa, it really is high. I think Dr. Basson referred to that, and you'll see in South Africa nationally, you have over 89% uptake of cell phones in our population. But unfortunately, with all the wonderful things that are happening on the internet, there's also a dark side to this. And research is showing that exposure to pornography and child pornography is harmful for children and can influence behavior, confuse ideas around their own sexuality, and even lead to adolescent sex offending. Just to give you a basic idea, child pornography is defined loosely as sexual or naked images of children under 18. In terms of our current law, creating, possessing, and distributing child pornography, whether you're an adult or a child, and exposure of children to pornography is a criminal offence in terms of the Sexual Offences Act and the Films and Publications Act. There are severe penalties meted out for convictions, and there's also possible registration on the National Register for Sex Offenders, which has its own consequences. Because most of these images are of children who are exploited, abused, tricked, or groomed, it is not a victimless crime. Images of child pornography are considered to be crime scenes involving children. And for this reason, the South African Law Reform Commission prefers to use the term child sexual abuse material. It's also important, particularly for children, to know that even where there's no abuse involved, it is a crime to make, possess, or distribute sexual or naked images, what they would call sexting, and also a crime to share it online. This is even if a child is in a legal sexual relationship in the range between 12 and 18. I know that some children or teenagers may see no harm with self-images that are shared, but remember that once placed in cyberspace, it is a public space, and you cannot delete it, and you have no control over it. If you have been tricked, catfished, or groomed to take naked selfies, you are a victim and not an offender. So even if you're doing something illegal like underage drinking and you were drunk and you don't know that a photo was taken of you, just remember that you're the victim and not an offender in this case. So don't be afraid to report this. The Law Reform Commission, while regulating and understanding that sexting is a very serious offence, are recommending that it will remain a criminal offence, except where you have a self-image on your phone, so it's a selfie of yourself. But remember that if your phone is stolen, someone might distribute the photo for you. And it would also not be a criminal offence if you show it to another child in a legal sexual relationship. But this would not mean distributing or sharing it in terms of sending it to someone. It would also not be a criminal offence if an adult has asked you to make a picture. In all of these cases, though, the Criminal Justice Act would apply where a child is involved, and you would be referred to a probation officer. I think the best advice that I could give, though, is do not take or share or post naked self-images. This includes parents of little children, no matter how cute you may think they look. The Law Reform Commission has various other draft proposals on its website as part of this investigation, and they're available on http://salawreform.justice.gov.za. Some of these proposals include placing a block on all mobile devices given to children to prevent access to pornography. The other proposals relate to criminalizing pop-ups that entice children to view pornography, and criminalizing misleading techniques on the internet, like misleading domain names. And that would be where you think you're going to a website on Barbie and it takes you somewhere else. So thank you so much.
We seem to have a slight glitch as Ms. Clark is trying to scroll down and come back online. We will allow her a few minutes to come back online.
Hi, sorry, I am back again. There seemed to have been something wrong with the slides. I'm not sure whether you heard the presentation, though.
You may continue, Ms. Clark. Yes, the slides are not moving, but we can follow the presentation as you talk, but we can't read through with you, but it's okay. You may proceed.
I've gone through this. I've gone through the slides. I've presented as they were moving on my side, so I've gone through it. I've concluded the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark, for highlighting, the protection that we are having from our policy and legislation in relation to online safety. At this point, I'm going to hand over to my co-director, Ms. Sina Muruwane from UNICEF. Over to you, Ms. Muruwane.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kiso. Let us move on with our program. I would like to call Mr. Morandeli Muridili from Film and Publication Board to talk to us about classification and online monitoring. Over.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. My name is Morandeni Muridili from Film and Publication Board. The Films and Publication Board is the public entity established in terms of the Films and Publications Act number 65 of 1996. So the Films and Publications Board has been mandated to regulate films, games, and publications. We look at the creation, production, position, as well as distribution. We also ensure the protection of children from disturbing and harmful content material, as well as premature exposure of children into adult experiences, as well as use of children in pornography. So we are also mandated to provide consumer advice to make informed viewing, reading, gaming choice for adults and children under their care, as well as ensuring that they are not exposed to unsolicited material. So generally what we do, we provide integrated child protection services through adhering to the established standard framework as well as policies and legislative framework. So among so many programs that we do have, we've got what we call online safety for children, where basically what we look at is the issue of child pornography. So child pornography, according to the Films and Publications Act, include any image, however created, any description of a person, real or simulated, who is depicted, made to appear, look like, represented, described as being under the age of 18 years, engaging into sexual conduct, participating in or assisting another person to participate in sexual conduct. Also showing or describing the body or part of the body of such a person in a manner in which within the circumstances amount to exploitation, or the images that are capable of being used for the purpose of sexual exploitation. However, when we define child pornography, we so much care about the apparent age of the person depicted on the picture more than the actual age. So what we actually look at is the issue of people who are in the business of child pornography, whom we refer to as pedophiles. So pedophiles are actually adult people who are sexually attracted to children, who are actually using this online platform to actually lure these children. So the other issue that we also look at is online child grooming, which basically refers to an act of deliberately establishing online emotional connection with a child to actually prepare them for abuse. So what we do there, we actually came to the realization that online child grooming happen while the parents and the children are at the same house. So what they basically do is to use this online platform to identify as well as befriend those whom they are interested in, which actually lead also to online child trafficking, where our children are being trafficked while at home. So now the traffickers doesn't necessarily have to wait for our children at the park, at the mall, or at church, wherever you may call it to be, but also they do it online. So they are told at a specific time, you go online and then you do this and that. So that's how we found ourselves one thing when it comes to these issues. With regard to the cases of abduction, we also see so many cases where children are abducted using this online platform because we are so excited. Our children will be checking in at the mall, at the complex, not knowing how many people are actually monitoring their movement. We also see the rise in the case of ID theft because our children will be giving out all personal information out there for these predators to actually look at it and also find it easy to locate where they might be at. And also we see the rise when it comes to the exposure of children to inappropriate or disturbing content material, which may be done via technology, internet, cell phone, social media, etc. So we also have the issue of extortion as well as revenge pornography. If you have been following media lately, the Films and Publications Amendment Bill actually talk about revenge pornography. So when we talk about revenge pornography, we are talking about a situation where obviously when you are dating your partner, you decided to send nude pictures to the other partner. So later on, irrespective of what the reason may be, someone will then decide to say, okay, if you don't do this and that, I'm going to expose you. I'm going to send all these nude pictures and videos online if you don't do this and that. So according to the Films and Publications Amendment Bill, such is a criminal offense. And also the issue of addiction, where our children actually got addicted to this online space. So on the internet or on the online, people appear to be those who they are not. And also when it comes to our children, they are at risk of such. So I will jump to talk about the offenses when you come to the issue of child pornography. You create child pornography when you download child pornography from the internet, when you film you or your girlfriend or boyfriend engage in sexual intercourse, if she or he is under the age of 18 years. Also, you are in possession of child pornography if you have a photo of a girl or a boy who is under the age of 18 years in your cell phone. And it is against the law to access child pornography on the internet. Even if you do not download it, do not even click on it. It is against the law to knowingly in any way distribute child pornography. And B, if you text or Bluetooth your friend a naked pic of a girl or a boy under the age of 18 years, you are distributing child pornography. So I'll give a classical example. Obviously, as parents, we would like to observe our children growing. Then one may decide to take pictures of them while bathing, walking naked, etc. And we might actually even decide to say, okay, let me share with the father who's maybe, for example, is in another province. So when we look at the offenses, to take that video, to take that picture, is actually create pornography. And when you possess it on your device, be it cell phone or laptop, you are possessing child pornography. Even when you send it to the father or whoever that you want to see, hey, look how excited my child is. So you have actually distributed this child pornography content. So we are also found wanting when it comes to the creation, position and distribution of this child pornography content. So even when a certain video went viral, where you will see school children engaging into sexual activities, when you receive, when you share, you must actually know that you are guilty of creating child pornography content. So at the Films and Publications Board, we've got a team of certified content analysts who sit there on a daily basis to attend to the public complaints. So what we basically do as the content analyst, when a content is referred to us, we work very closely with a law enforcement agency, whom even when an image or video, they're not sure if it's that of a child, because some of this content might be created even in other countries. So when it comes to us, we look at it, we actually view the content, we make a determination, age determination, if indeed the content that has been referred is child pornography or not, because there is a thin line. We need to actually look at all the scales to actually make a determination if indeed the content is child pornography or not. So through this partnership, it is a global hotline operators that ensure the prevention of illegal distribution of child sexual abuse material as well as exploitation. So it is through this partnership where, again, we ensure that when it comes to the predators of these heinous crimes, we actually fast-track the referral system to the countries of origin. The network assists in ensuring that illegal websites are identified. Evidence are collected within the precinct of the law, and action taken, which include taking down the content from the website, as well as referred to law enforcement agents. We work very closely to those. So via this online partnership, what we do, because it actually brings together different countries, even if a site is hosted in another country, it becomes easy for us to liaise with the hotline in those respective countries so that they actually escalate it to the law enforcement agency there. So illegal content on the internet can be reported to www.fpbhotline.org.za or also by calling 0800 148 148. We got online monitors at the Films and Publications Board who make sure that on a daily basis they attend to public report, and we've got child protection team which also see to look at all this report, assess if indeed the content is child pornography or not, and we make sure that we deal with those issues. So we want to create a space where it will be safe for our children to go online to actually do some other good things, because we cannot even sugarcoat it. There are so many advantages on the online space, but then because of this little issue that has to do with the dangers of online space and others, that's where we are finding these challenges. But we are calling upon the public, child protection actors, the academics, so that we come together and find solution on how we can deal with this issue once and for all. So thank you so much, Nelisa. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morandeni. Thank you very much for that inspiring presentation. Insightful information indeed, because you really told us of the non-negotiables as far as transmission of online images are concerned, and you have clearly indicated that we should really try our level best to protect our children and to ensure that we guide our children to really navigate the internet and social messages and portfolios media with care, and ensuring that really their private information is being protected. Thank you very much for that inspiring information. And to indicate that online can end up with offline, actually also really exposing our children to vulnerability, exploitation, and even trafficking. Thanks for sharing the information on the hotlines and helplines. Let's move on with our program. I am now going to call the child of Mr. Van Westhuizen. The dad has already shared the experiences. Now we want to hear from the child to really tell us of his experiences online. Over to you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Lindiwe van Westhuizen. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for all the wise words that everyone has shared before me. Me as a child has especially learned from that, and it has given me a bit of perspective of how serious this problem in our country is. Now, first of all, I would like to say that it would be crazily reactionary and conservative to say that online platforms is a uniformly bad thing. Now, almost none of us would give up the smartphones or laptops or Spotify, social media, video games, online shopping, and all these things that we have today to live 100 years ago. But if you look in the 21st century, you can see that with the same technology of electricity and trains, you can use that to build a communist dictatorship or a liberal democracy. And it's the same with social media or online platforms. You can use exactly the same online platforms for very different social and political purposes. And especially if not used correctly, it does sometimes come at a human psychological cost. So how do we fix this problem that is so critical at this stage in South Africa, especially in a time where people are being online and connecting digitally more than ever because of COVID-19 and the lockdown? So first of all, I think like many things, being aware of the problem is the starting point to actually facing the problem of online platforms and social media. Just being mindful about the harm that it can create already gives children a perspective of what they should look out for on these online platforms. And it's not always bad things that can happen on these online platforms. Some of the good uses are, like we have seen in this lockdown, education. And I'm not just talking about schooling, which is obviously already a big thing, but I personally believe that a lot of skills can be taught over online platforms, like leadership skills, or teaching yourself to play an instrument, or anything like that, which can be used to learn yourself over these online platforms. And then obviously you're connected with others and you can speak to others at any point of time, no matter where they are in the world. And this is especially great for connecting with friends and family. And then lastly, it really does create a new kind of platform to raise your voice and gives a voice to children who not always had a voice in society, so that they can give their own opinions in the case that it's not hate speech. But enough about the good stuff, because we're not here to talk about the good stuff, we're here to talk about the bad uses. Now, some of the bad uses that we've already talked about is cyberbullying and pornography. But there are also other bad uses that can create psychological problems like depression and anxiety that we also have to have in mind, like being on too much on these online platforms, even if it is being used for good. So now that we know what is the main problems, let's think about how we can start to solve them. And I would like to start by cyberbullying and what I have experienced as a child in society and in this beautiful country of ours. Now, again, I believe that trying to overcome the fight against cyberbullying starts by making sure that the child is aware of the issue and aware of this whole cyberbullying and to look out for it. That already is a big step. Then they have to be taught how to use these online platforms, which can be done by friends, but young people know how these online platforms work, or by parents, and showing that you can block or report anybody who speaks negatively towards you and bullies you. And the negative thing about cyberbullying, it's not like in the old days where the person is only getting bullied at school, and then when it gets home, it creates a safe haven at the house because the person is not there. Cyberbullying is 24/7. Doesn't matter if the person is at school or at home. It happens because the cell phone is with that person all the time. But that's also a good thing in the sense of if the person doesn't want to talk to the person that is bullying them, they can easily block the person and report them. And we need to make children aware of that fact, that all is being done by social media and online platforms to create a safe environment for us all. Then the next one, pornography. Again, being aware of it is a big thing. And I think, again, that we should, especially as young people, make sure that people notice that they should think before they do anything or send any pictures to anyone involved in the team of them or someone else in that case. And then take responsibility for their accident. Mr. Freddie, you talked about responsibility of children, and I really agree with what you said, in the sense that if children can take responsibility for their actions and for what they send to each other, it is already a big step in solving this problem. And then if someone is creating child pornography of them, they must try and report that person as soon as possible. And then there's a new thing out there that creates depression and anxiety that I've seen in my culture as a youth, which is not spoken about a lot, and it's called social ranking. Now, how social ranking is being used to manipulate teenagers is they take the amount of followers that a person has on Facebook or Instagram or any other online platform, and then they associate the popularity of that person depending on how much followers they have. And it creates a society of prejudgment. And like they say in court, perspective is reality until proven otherwise. So we need to teach children, that it doesn't matter how much followers you have on the virtual world, and to accept others just as they are and not prejudge them. But yeah, like I said, this is how I think we should do in the society and my experiences. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Henry. That was very informative. Actually, you have been giving a lot of, advice. That's word of advice, to children, but to us as well as adults. That is very, very much appreciated. And thank you very much for your presentation. Let's move on with our program now. We are going to call Ms. Lindiwe from the Department of Social Development to tell us more about prevention and response services that the department has lined up for the protection of children online. Over to you, Ms. Lindiwe.
Thank you, Sina. Good afternoon to everybody. I would just like to focus on the issues of services to children and the protection of children. The Department of Social Development is committed to promote and protect the rights of every child as a lead department. The department has to ensure that all children in South Africa, including non-South African children, enjoy the care and protection that they are assured of in Section 28.1 and 28.2 of the South African Constitution and the Children's Act. The best interest of the child is of paramount importance at all times. The legislative provision is to ensure the safety, care, and protection of all children from violence, child abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Should a child's right be violated in any form, including online violation, that child will be identified as a child in need of care and protection according to the Children's Act. A determination on whether the child needs to remain in the home or removed to alternative care through a children's court order. The social worker will identify risk factors and based on that, then will make a determination. The social worker will provide support to the child through the criminal court process and the children's court process in terms of the implementation of the Films and Publication Act, the Sexual Offences Act, and the Children's Act. DSD, as I say, is the Department of Social Development, will provide a package of services to the child who is at risk and who is also a victim of online violations. This would include, amongst others, trauma debriefing, counseling, and psychosocial support. Behavior change management programs to online addictions of children, online use, and online relationships, amongst others. Prevention and protection services include structured programs which will address the impact and consequences of online violations. Further protective measures of safe online use, age-appropriate use, understanding online languages and terminologies. Examples of children being recruited and groomed for children to be used by adults to commit crime, sexual exploitation, and online violence. Intersectoral collaboration assists in services to children. Working relationships with the Family Violence and Sexual Offences Unit for criminal investigations and the Film and Publications Board for online investigation. Training and capacity building on the guidelines for prevention of and response to child exploitation assists social workers and relevant stakeholders in the identification, assessment, reporting, and referral of cases of online violations. It's important that parental education programs to enhance the knowledge of online risks and vulnerabilities of children are in place. With COVID-19 and the e-learning makes children more vulnerable to online predators, parents need to monitor children's online activities, monitor time spent online, and content and context being discussed online. The 365-day Child Protection Program of Action is in line with Outcome 3 of the National Development Plan, which children in South Africa are and feel safe. The plan is targeted to strengthen the prevention and management of violence against children, child abuse, neglect, and online violations through mobilization of all child protection stakeholders, including government, civil society organizations, and academia. The program of action will strengthen the advocacy, awareness, and programs to ensure care and protection of children, including online protection. We have helplines. The GBV Command Center provides the avenue for reporting online violations of children by children themselves and by their parents. Childline also supports reporting of online violations through their helpline and is also providing online counseling. Let us all protect children during COVID-19 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dwarika. That was really very much appreciated to tell us of the services that are there. Can I move on then to call our next speaker? We are calling now Yolanda Mlonze from Google South Africa to actually tell us what the tech industry is actually having in order to ensure that our children are protected. Over to you, Yolanda.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to all the listeners watching this today. I am from Google South Africa, and I'm super excited to talk about this very important issue about online safety. As a company, we take online safety very seriously. As you can imagine, a lot of kids are using Google Search for homework or YouTube for entertainment purposes. Therefore, ensuring that we work with stakeholders, whether it's government or NGOs, in protecting children online is super important. What I want to talk about today is sort of four things or four pillars that we really anchor our online safety approach for children on. One is around education. I heard, the other speakers speaking about awareness. We need more people to be aware about online safety. So as a company, we've invested a lot on digital literacy programs focused on online safety, one of which being our Web Rangers program. The Web Rangers program runs in South Africa across 4 provinces. To date, we have trained 850 young learners. And the way the program is structured is that the learners would go through a curriculum over a 9-month period. And they will be taught about cyberbullying, all other cyber ills, and then they will be expected to be online safety advocates or ambassadors in their schools. This program has really raised awareness amongst young people on online safety and what to do when they are faced with cyber ills or dangerous situations online. What we've also noticed is that there is a greater need to actually integrate online safety curriculum as part of teaching and learning. What we have done in the Western Cape is we've worked with the Western Cape Education Department to actually roll out online safety curriculum in public high schools. And we really hope this will extend throughout the nation. The second thing out of digital literacy programs that I'd like to highlight is the importance of actually bringing on the parents. I was so pleased to hear the parent on the call talking about the way in which he speaks to his children around online safety. But what we've identified is that a lot of parents actually don't know the language. They don't know how to start a conversation. So we are launching Parents Cafe. And actually yesterday we held an online safety training for parents in partnership with the Department of Social Development. And this training really seeks to help parents learn about online safety and the tools that they can use to help protect their children online. So that's the first thing that I want to touch on very quickly. The second bit is around products. So how do we ensure that our products are safe for children or young people to use? So when you think about Google search, one of the things that we really try to advocate for is for parents to enable what we call safe search. So you can click on the settings on your Google search and enable that. What that tries to do is to filter out inappropriate content. As a company, we do realize that this is not 100% bulletproof or guaranteed, but it is a measure that can help parents curb harmful exposure to content that may be inappropriate for their kids. The second thing is around YouTube. So YouTube, as many would know, is a really great platform when it comes to video content, but maybe the content may not be appropriate for your child. So how can you then ensure that they are exposed to content that is appropriate? What we have in this regard is YouTube Kids. So parents can install YouTube Kids. And the way YouTube Kids work is that it allows the parent to choose what type of content their kids can be exposed to and what content they don't want their kids to be exposed to. The third one being the Family Link app. This app really helps parents monitor the online activities of their children, things like setting a bedtime. Someone was saying that, social media or online space is 24/7, but we also realize that kids could be addicted to the online space. So the Family Link app really tries to give power to parents as well as children on setting healthy digital habits for themselves and for their children. The third thing I'd like to highlight here is from a policy point of view. So our platforms have what we call community guidelines. And these community guidelines highlight what we allow and what we do not allow on our platforms, one of which being child sexual abuse material. We do not allow child sexual abuse material. We've got very strict policies around this. We have a team internally at Google called the Law Enforcement Team, which actually works to make sure that child sexual abuse material is not on our platforms. And we also use AI to ensure that this does not happen. In cases where things happen or we miss the ball, we do work with trusted flaggers, which are NGOs that help Google report and take down content that may be harmful. The second one that I'd like to highlight on this topic is around revenge porn. I know the colleague from FPB mentioned this. We also have a very strict policy when it comes to revenge porn. So if you ever come across your images online that you want to take down, please search our Google search help page and type in their revenge porn policy, and you'll be guided on how to take down or request to take down explicit images of yourself. The last thing that I'd like to highlight is online safety resources that we have for parents to make use of. One of which is our Be Internet Awesome website. Parents and learners can go there, and there are unlimited resources on how to talk about online safety with your kids, to learn about online safety, as well as for teachers to download curriculum that they can easily integrate as part of teaching and learning. The Be Internet Awesome website also has a game that actually helps young people start learning about online safety in a fun and interactive way. So I'd really urge parents to make use of that platform. The other thing is we've got a Google Safety Center. That Safety Center really has, again, resources on how to protect yourself as well as children. In closing, I'd like to just say that partnerships have been very central in the work that we do when it comes to online safety. Government partnerships, NGOs. For example, the Web Bridges program that I referenced earlier on is being led by Media Monitoring Africa, but also industry partnerships. So we cannot do this alone, as much as, many may think that we're a big company, but we really do rely on partnerships. I'd like to make a call that throughout this year, Child Protection Week does not end, as much as it does end in terms of the calendar this week, but protecting children online is a continuous engagement. And as a result, we'll be launching a Parents Cafe, where we hope to train parents on online safety and important tools. And we hope we can partner with the people on this call and the parent community in ensuring that their kids are safe online. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much, Yolanda. That was really a mouthful, sharing with us the protection measures that you have, as well as giving the guidance to parents, but also calling for children actually and parents to link up and see how best any child sexual abuse material can actually be removed, from the digital space. That is actually very much appreciated. This webinar, it's more about children. And I am going to call another child. We really need to hear the voices of children. Child from Auswini, Limpopo, to actually address us. Over to you.
Thank you, Program Director. I am Matabisa Tsepang, the Child Ambassador of Limpopo. As a child who's also on social media platforms, I would like to raise my experiences with online violation. So I'll first start with the negatives of it, then I'll focus on the positives of it. So what I have experienced or what I have observed is that we have what you call cyberbullying. You can easily be bullied by people by throwing, by hate speeches and harassment, suicide, or injury. Like they can do a lot of things. And then more than anything, social media platforms are very addictive, and especially when you're a child, and they can waste much of your time. So the positives are that you can always chat, you can, and that helps you to improve your self-esteem. And then again, you can also be updated with what's happening around the world. Especially on Facebook, you can also search for organizations that are mainly focusing on motivations or for child platforms in which they can motivate children. And you can also know much more about your rights. For example, you can search for organizations like Save the Children and UNICEF, just to mention a few. And then number two, I'll be focusing on the risk factors that are faced. Because of cyberbullying, we actually have some cases in which children take their own lives because they were embarrassed online or they were harassed or things like that. And again, you can lose your self-esteem because of people that embarrass you online, people who stalk you, or people who actually comment things that can make you to lose your self-esteem. We do have the safety measures that you can take as a child to avoid such risk factors, especially on social media platforms. So you can simply block the person who's harassing you. You can report them. You can report nudity, violence, harassment, suicide or self-injury, false news, spam, unauthorized sales, hate speech, or terrorism. And again, you can just simply don't accept friend requests from people that you do not know, because it might be someone who actually created an account with a false identity, trying to sabotage you or trying to post nasty things about you. And again, it is very important that you never ever as a child share your password, your particular platform. Do not ever share your password, because people can easily hack you, people can get into your account and share things that you've been taking with your friends for people to see. So my advice is that to children, social media platforms can build you, and again they can break you. So make sure that you associate yourself with people who challenge how you think. In that way, you'll have a positive, open, enlightened mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tepang. Thank you very much. I think all the children of South Africa has actually been listening to you, and they have taken those words of advice. We are moving towards closure of our program, and I think from me and my co-program director, Ms. Nelisa Tekisho, we'd like to say thank you to the viewers. I'm now handing over to the DDG of Welfare Services, the Department of Social Development, to really give us a closing remark. Over to you, DDG.
Thank you, Sina and Neliswa. Thank you, Sina and Neliswa. The children of South Africa have spoken. The experts have also addressed us, and everybody else was listening or viewing out there. All I need to say to you, there are key things that came out of the discussion: collaboration, training, awareness, the importance of research, also the fact that children need to be protected, but also we are saying children must also take responsibility and make sure that whatever they watch online, it's something that will really assist them in terms of learning and also information that will not harm them. Technology is really growing very fast, and we are beginning to use technology, all of us, to deliver service for education and for other things. However, there are threats and there are also abuse that we are witnessing as a country for our children. Now I'm saying to the children, please take your caregivers and your parents along, because some of your parents and caregivers don't know technology. Don't leave them behind, because it's only that way where they can support you. And also report suspicious, friends online that are trying to really hook you to bad behavior. Also to the parents and caregivers, create that platform. Let the children be feeling safe to talk to you, to share with you their experiences online. To my colleagues, the frontline workers, the experts, the academia, the researchers, and also the media, please join us to be able to spread the message, because we have heard today there are a lot of initiatives, but you will agree with me that some of the initiatives are not known. So we need media space, all media platforms to join hands with us to be able to spread the gospel so that our children can be protected. We need to continuously have a conversation with our children so that they can understand the safety, precautions when they go online. So we can together do this thing. We can work together and change the perception out there, because we live technology. There's no way we can avoid technology. We have learned now during COVID that only technology can assist us to do what we do best differently using technology. As we close, let's continue the conversation. Let's continue working together and ensure that our children are protected. Thank you to all the participants. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
So that's how we come to the end of this webinar organized by the Department of Social Development.